John, a good week for the Bradford Bulls. A victory over Whitehaven. You kept them scoreless, and you've extended the points difference now to plus 92.
Yeah, we're delighted. I mean, you look at the points difference afterwards, but obviously our job's to win the game and to pay due heed to the processes, and that's exactly what we did. And as you've rightly pointed out, the 0 on the score sheet was the most pleasing thing, because I thought defensively we really showed some energy, and we really showed some composure and belief in our structures and systems to keep them out. And I was really pleased with the performance generally, but very, very pleased with the performance defensively.
And obviously, John, that's momentum that you can take into Sunday's game against the North Wales Crusaders.
Yeah, we can, but we've also got to be very respectful of them as well, because I've watched the York game, and York scored their 5th try in the 78th minute or something, so it was 24-0 right until the death, and I would have said perhaps 24-6 would have been a better reflection, because they also asked some questions of the York defence. But credit to York, they defended magnificently. But this North Wales team are a decent team, full of good, solid rugby league, hard-working lads who are going to be an obstacle and who are going to be obstinate and obstructive to what we want to achieve. And we've got to be patient enough to keep doing what we believe in order to break them down.
Is it fair to say, John, that they're perhaps in a bit of a false position, currently 10th in the table, bearing in mind they've gone to Newcastle and won, and they've also gone up to Whitehaven and won? Yeah,
that's a good call, and you've picked up on things I'm telling my players. They've been up to Whitehaven, which not many people do, and they came on the right side of the scoring ledger. They went up to Newcastle, which is a tough old place to go, came on the right side of the scoring ledger, and even when they've been beaten, other teams have had to roll the sleeves up and work for 80 minutes. So my emphasis for these guys this week is you're going to have to roll your sleeves up, you're going to have to work, and they ain't going to give you a single thing. Everything's going to have to be earned from a Bradford Bulls perspective.
And another new ground for some of the players to tick off on Sunday. No longer the racecourse ground, it's now the Causeway Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have been there with Wales. We did a training camp there, so I know the surroundings, but the changing rooms are very small, which is obviously an obstacle, and the surface ain't the best, and it's a narrow field. It's a long field, but it's a narrow field. So yeah, we know but there's logistical problems there, but we've handled them great, and we're getting better week in, week out at handling them. But basically the biggest threat is the 7-tailed blokes will be wearing the red and green of North Wales, and we respect that, and we know that, and we acknowledge that, and we'll work to overcome that.
In terms of injuries, John, at the moment, have you got any updates on Lee Smith, Ashley Gibson, Greg McNally, James Laithwaite?
Well, I mean, they're all basically long-termers, aren't they? Lee's struggling with his Achilles, Ashley's had a broken thumb, which will rule him out until after Wembley at the very earliest. And Greg McNally's he's struggling. We're not setting a time frame with Greg, because we feel as if we put too much pressure on him, and obviously James has gone for the season, so that's not very healthy. The positive side is Callum Bustin, who's carrying a knee injury. We think this will be the last week that he misses. We're hoping that he'll be available for the Workington game, which will obviously boost us. But we're not in a bad position, but it is the advantage of having a competitive squad and a big squad, and we're making full use of that.
And one of those players who definitely has received the all clear, John, Joe Keys. So when you factor in Joe Keys, Jordan Lilly, Dane Chisholm, 3 into 2, we know it don't go. So you've got a good selection headache.
Yeah, it is a good selection headache, yes, and you'll have to see if 3 into 2 does go. I might have reinvented the maths, Mick, but no, we've got a strategy for this week, and that strategy will involve all 3 of those players. And it'll be interesting to see if it comes off, but I'm confident it will.
And in terms of where the current squad is and the mood of the side, John, 6 games to go, are you happy with where they are?
Yeah, we've got to be, haven't we? I mean, I can't fault the players' application and the work ethic from day one when I came in here. We might have done a couple of things that weren't that smart, that's allowed Workington to come away with the points, and we might have let York get away too quickly that first half hour, but generally over the season I can't fault these guys, and they've been a pleasure to work with, a delight to work with. But as you rightly point out, Mick, there's 6 games left, and the most important 6 games in this club's history at this moment in time, because our aim is to get out of this division, get into the Championship, and if we're going to do that, we're going to have to nail all 6 games. So we know it's a tough period, it's an intense period, but that's part of sport.
And again, you know, a very young side, the average age up to press 23 years 5 months. 16 of the players who've played for the side this season, John, they're actually under that average age. I mean, what have those young players learned so far?
Well, first of all, I'm delighted that we've got a young team, because what it shows is that should we keep the vast majority together, which is obviously our intention, we'll grow and improve as a team. And should we add a bit of experience, that will further help us. So yeah, they are a young team, but they're a young team who are working hard and willing to learn, and that's a really pleasing aspect of them. And I think everybody can see from what we've seen there's been a growth in our young players, and there's been an element of development in the vast majority of them. And you know, the one everybody looks at is Brandon Pickersgill, and rightly so, because he's just blossomed this year. This has been his year for him to blossom, and it's a great headache he's giving me with regard to Greg McNally. But he's just an example of them. And if you look through the team, you know, there's a lot of Bradford lads who've come through the Bradford system, and they're fully endorsing the reason why we need and we use such a good academy as we've got.
Is there any slight concerns about the pressure that's going to become all too apparent in the final 6 games on such a young side?
No, I mean, that's my job, isn't it? My job's to manage that, and it's also the job of people like Steve Crossley as well to do that. But I was going to almost say Lake Minchella, but I forgot how young he was as well, because he's still a very young man, but he's got a wedge of experience, hasn't he? And you know, he's really developed as well as a leader, not just as a rugby league player. So we're in a good spot, Mick, and I've got to manage that, and it's my job to manage that, and I'm comfortable managing that.
James Ford said in his press conference yesterday that all the pressure remains firmly on yourself and the Bradford Bulls to get the job done, given the status of the club. Yeah,
Fordinho, yes, yeah. Well, we'll have to see if the pressure's on us. And he's also stated, I believe, that he isn't looking at our results. Well, I believe in Father Christmas.
You have to do that.
You'd know it 20.
He said it though.
Yeah,
yeah. Are you looking at who York have got up coming up in the fixtures, John?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, you know, you look at the big picture as well as the immediate picture. And of course, I know York's playing. James Ford will know we're playing, and we know we're playing, and he'll know York are playing. So yeah, it's a fact of life, and you do that all the time. You always try to say it's next game and so on and so forth, but you also know, and you take it to Super League or the Championship. I already know that next year, if we get in the Championship, we win 17 games out of 23, we're in the top 4. So that's how far ahead I'm looking. So I'm certain that James Ford will be similarly doing so with York and looking at us, and I'm doing so looking at York and looking at ourselves.
And is it fair to say, John, you've gone through numerous pairs of trainers this year with York firmly at your heels?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they've done great, haven't they? You know, you've got to admire them, and it just shows what a competitive division that this has been. You know, and should they overtake us, we'll shake their hands and we'll have to do the other route. But our intention is that they don't overtake us, and that's why we're focusing on these games as we are.
And just focusing, John, on Wales, obviously with the opposition being North Wales Crusaders on Sunday. The Welsh under-19s academy side currently in Serbia, although it ended in defeat yesterday against England in the semi-final. Still plenty of positives from a young side. They had a record 19-0 win over Ukraine in the group stages.
Yeah, there's some good players there as well. I mean, one of them's the captain, who was obviously here at the Bulls, in young Colby Green, and he's led them well. There's another good halfback, Elliot Jenkinson, who's over at St Helens. So the future's looking rosy, but you know, you can't really expect them to beat an England team who've got far more personnel to choose from, but you can look to them to play well, and that's what they did. And obviously they played well in the other games as well. So it's been a good tournament for them, and I hope they return home safely.
And it's not just the under-19 side that have been in action. You've got the Welsh Rugby League set up, under 23s, under 16s, the student levels, and then of course the Dragon Hearts and the senior side that you're the head coach of to come.
Yeah, there's a great structure there, you know, but it's like anything else. It's not a quick fix. It's part of a long-term plan, and you've got to stick with it. And there's going to be good times, and there's going to be tough times. Well, you have to ride through the tough times and enjoy the good times, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. And we do feel, you know, that it is a genuine, when Wales play, it's a genuine Welsh team. When Wales under-19 or the Braveheart, it's a genuine Welsh team, and we're pretty proud of that, and we'll stick to our principles, hopefully to develop the international game as best we can.
And a strong rugby league presence in Wales can only benefit sides like the North Wales Crusaders and the West Wales Raiders.
Yes, it can, yeah, but there's problems for the West Wales Raiders simply by the location. I mean, you know, anybody who hasn't been down to Llanelli will realise it's a fair old way. You know, it's a 6-hour journey from Bradford, so it's a fair whack, and that isolation is in itself a hurdle that they've got to overcome. But yes, a good Welsh structure will help any professional team or any community team, you know, in Wales.
And just finally, John, you were part of the BBC commentary team on Sunday afternoon at Bolton. What are your thoughts on the two finalists, Catalan Dragons and the Warrington Wolves? Yeah,
well, I think the Catalan Dragons probably, that's the best illustration of class being permanent and form being temporary. Because I'm sure you saw the BBC when the balls were drawn out of the hat and the Saints fans are cheering because they've got Catalan, and then they get a good hiding and they're not going to Wembley, and it just shows that, you know, quality lasts, but sometimes you don't play as well for whatever reason. But they've come through that and they're in great form. And Warrington have been good all through, haven't they? They've been. I mean, we know that at Bradford because they bet us 50 points to 6 in that first round, despite the fact we played really well. So I think it'll be a great final. I hope Warrington win, and I hope Warrington win so that we can say we've been knocked out by the winners. So good on you, good luck Warrington.